Welcome back, everybody. Today, I wanted to talk about something that I haven't actually heard anyone else talk about regarding discovering you are a scapegoat in and coming from a toxic, abusive family system. And I wanted to talk about what I think is the double trauma of finding out you're a scapegoat. So, bear with me whilst I kind of oversimplify the situation, and obviously I understand everybody's experience is going to be different. But from what I can tell, broadly speaking, there are two phases of this, of the potentially a minimum of two phases of this kind of scapegoating relationship. And I'm going to split it into a prior to being aware phase and then the finding out phase. So the prior to being aware, the phase where you just don't know that your family are not, or one person in your family is narcissistic, is abusive, is not supportive, they don't know how to love, they don't know how to be a supportive, loving parent, which is what you need when you're growing up. That's one of the basic support systems you need as a child from your caregiver and your supportive family group. So if you are born into a family unit where you have a narcissistic parent or two, then you are going to go through a significant period of abuse. And I recently heard a really good, what I thought was a really good breakdown and explanation of how that kind of abuse and how that process works. Because I think for a lot of us, the abusive episodes are really small. It's covert, so it's not someone coming and punching you in the face or potentially yelling and screaming at you in the middle of a public place. It's the covert, so it's hidden from outsiders probably, and it may even be hidden from other family members. The people doing it, and I think in my situation, don't know that what they're doing is wrong. It's just habits that they've learned and they formed through their lives. And so the abusive episodes are things like making fun of you, not listening to you, not yelling at you for doing something that perhaps your golden child sibling got away with, and then you get in trouble for, and you don't understand why, and then maybe you ask why, and then you get in trouble again, or there's gaslighting going on, they deny that anything happens, things like that. So what happens is there's a lot of very, very small a lot of these I'm going to call them small because I think even now when I look at them objectively from a distance, I think it's very easy to say, for this specific incident, okay, maybe that wasn't too bad. But the problem is that, and you can make an excuse for it, and you can think, well, did I misinterpret it? Had I done something wrong? Was I out of line? Was I being an obnoxious brat? Was I doing all those things, those bad things that they told me I do because that's how they're telling me I am? And also, as a child as well, it's very, very important to realize that as a child, we are wired to, if we're told we've done something wrong, and the alternative is to not believing that we did something wrong, is to having to put the blame onto that person who's looking after us. That's something we can't do. As children, it's too much of a risk to our survival. So we have to internalize the blame when it's being given to us. And so what happens is that these kind of infringements, maybe the first time, okay, then they start to build up, and then they start to hurt more, and then the hurt gets deeper and deeper, and at some point your brain just, there's too much, it's too much overload, and that's when you move into the trauma. You can't process it. There's too much in there. You don't have a safe place to get the emotions out. And so you end up with, things happen in your brain, things rewire, pathways connect to just to get you through it. And it is a traumatic, so it's that kind of traumatic, now it's an imprint in your head. And so, coming back to my very oversimplification at the beginning, so that period, for me, it lasted until, actually for a very long time. I don't really know when it ended. When I left home, for sure, things started to get better. When I left physically left the family unit, and I started to get my own independence, that's when things started to get better. But for me, there was a second traumatic process, which I've gone through very, very recently, and which I found incredibly difficult. And I can't say if it was harder than when I was living with them, than those traumatic events as a child, because I can't remember them as much, to be honest. But the process I found of finding out that my family were narcissistic, abusive, toxic, was a traumatic event in itself. And the reason I wanted to talk about it is because, again, I haven't heard anyone talk about this process itself being traumatic. And maybe they have, and I haven't, excuse me, I haven't come across it. But to me, it focuses on what used to happen, and all the infringements that the narcissists and the toxic people have been making. But the actual finding out that you're a scapegoat, you're being blamed for things that you haven't done, you've been characterized in certain ways which aren't true to who you are. When you find this out, it is a traumatic event. And I'm sure of this because of my own experience. And I also I was reading a book recently by Brene Brown. I believe it's called Braving the Wilderness. I can look it up and put the title in the comments later, if people want to know. But she's not talking about narcissistic family units or abusive families at all. But what she does talk about an event that happened in her childhood that really shaped her. And what she says is that when she found out, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not going to quote her exactly, so forgive me if I'm not exactly right. But for her, finding out that she didn't belong in her family unit anymore, and that she was kind of separated from them, and that they didn't kind of have her back and they didn't support her, was one of the hardest things she's ever, actually probably I'm thinking the book, it's one of the hardest things she's ever had to go through. And it shaped her life completely. And she goes on to say a bit later that the research has shown that in comparison to violence, poverty, human rights violations, all the really big, nasty things that can happen to people and do happen to people, being split or separated from your family of origin, your family unit, the one you rely on, the one that should be there for you through thick and thin, no matter what, being split from that, having that taken away from you, is up there as one of the most traumatic experiences that can happen to anybody. And so for me, finding out that I was a scapegoat, finding out at the age of 44 that my family, who I believed this whole time were good, decent people, and that I was the one with the, the deviant personality, to find out that that's not true, to find out that they are mentally and emotionally so damaged and so unable to see truth and reality is heartbreaking. To find out that they aren't able to see me, to hear me, to support me, and to love me for who I am is, or was, it's incredibly difficult. And so I just wanted to throw that out there, that if you are going through this, and if you're going through this process, please understand that it's really, really freaking hard. And I hope that if you are going through it, that you have the support of good friends or hopefully some therapy to really help unpack it, because it's very messy. And it's also not like the family unit, it's just, something bad happens and, they're whisked off by aliens and suddenly they've all disappeared or anything like that. They're still alive, they're still there, but they don't want what's best for you. And it takes a lot of strength and a lot of bravery to admit it, and then to do what you need to do to make yourself safe and to build your life going forwards. And talking about that, again, coming back to the Brene Brown book, she talks about what happens when you do go through such a traumatic experience. And she said you have three choices. You can be very, very angry and look to hurt other people and take your anger and pain out on the rest of the world. You can deny that it's happening and somehow live in some weird, kind of reality of just trying to muddle through without really, grasping what's happened. Or you can accept it, you can face up to it, and you can do the bravest thing possible of trying to work through that pain and come out the other side and try and do something good with it. And for me, I definitely know I've spent time in those first two places, and I still do. The anger, the pain, why did it have to happen to me? What is wrong with these people? Some days I'm just so angry at them, and I think it's so unfair that it happened, and why did I have to have a family like this? What would I have been like if I had a supportive and loving family? What would that Disney world look like? And then the denial, the really not, for so long I didn't want to realize, I didn't want to accept that this was who they were and what they were doing to me. And I think also I should kind of a little aside, if you're in that place, I think for me I had to be in the right place physically, emotionally, to really go through the process of splitting from the family. And I think that I didn't do it before because I wasn't able to do it. I was either physically too close to them, or I wasn't emotionally ready to take on that huge amount of work that it takes to stand up to tormentors and oppressors and say, you're not going to do that to me anymore. So I'm trying to work on phase 3. I'm trying to move it on and and do the best I can, and I'm not doing that for them or for any, I don't want a little halo or saint work. It's the only way I can see that I can get a decent life, and then I can move on and not be forever haunted by this black cloud of whatever they are and were and what happened. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. I'd love to hear your comments if you think that you have a similar experience, or you think that I'm crazy and out of my mind. Please drop me a line, say hi. I appreciate you being here. I really appreciate you watching, and I really, really hope you're all taking care of yourselves. Be strong, be safe, take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.